Hello everyone, welcome back. It's Space Engineers Plus Me, episode 40. I'm Enigmaeus, and today, look, it's happening right before our very eyes. Finally, proof of concept. It's not perfect, it's not done, there's still room for refinements, adjustments, corrections, but the proof of concept is right there. This is the frame extender that we're going to be using with the Atlas for the new mining rig that we're going to be setting up. We needed a way to extend the physical frame of the track ship so that we could lower it and then continue to lower it as we need to lower it. So to do that, we had to kind of manipulate a bunch of different things, not necessarily simultaneously, but in the right order and set up properly so that they would work. Dropping the frame so that it actually lowers, grinding, welding, reattaching the frame. All of these things finally are working. Hooray! Proof of concept. I'm going to take a closer look at that and some of the other things we've been working on. Alright, so we might as well start over here before the sun goes down. Funny how that happens. Time just flies when you're having fun. It's a little bit easier to show you exactly how things are working when we can kind of take a look at it while it's stationary, but you saw just a few seconds ago that it does work as a complete system. We'll talk a little bit about some of the things we have to tweak, but for the most part, it's basically proof of concept achieved at this point. I'm very, very confident that the minor tweaking I want to do isn't going to be necessary to be able to say that it's a successful design. So the whole idea is that we drop the frame that is being held by this gantry sort of thing by one block, and then we grind off all of the blocks that are now out of position, and we weld on new blocks that are in position so that we can drop it again. And we basically do that cycle over and over again. As long as we have materials, we can continue dropping the frame. So that's the whole idea behind this drilling unit, is that we can drop it as far down as we want, realistically speaking. So you can see here we've got these sort of T-shaped things sticking up out of the middle of this great big mess of welders and other things, but you can see the T-shaped sort of thing going on here, and then there's another one on the other side. These are attached to the moving frame, the part with the thrusters on down there that extends all the way down, so that when we release the merge blocks that are under here holding everything in place, the moving frame is now no longer held in place, and it falls down one block and then it stops because it hits the blast door blocks down there. With these guys, physics say can't move past that, so you just have to sit there and hang out for a little while. That's the most important step. If we can't get it to move down one block, everything else that we do kind of doesn't have a purpose, because the whole idea is to get it moving down. But once we've got it moving down, that's when we have to get a little bit technical in terms of what's going on and what we need to do in order to make everything work the way that we want it to. First thing we do is we engage the landing gears to hold it in place. Currently, if we're following it in our minds, these guys have fallen. They're being held in place now by the position of these blocks. If we remove these blocks, there's nothing holding it in place anymore. It'll just fall right through to the ground. So we use the landing gears to hold the whole thing in place. Then we can weld off all of the blocks that we need to reposition. These guys, this merge block, and a few other pieces up here with the connectors and the conveyors and all these other things. Once it's ground off, then we have to reattach the moving frame to the gantry so that we can weld it, because the projector is on the gantry, and if the projector and the moving frame aren't in the same grid, it won't line up properly and you can't weld everything back together. So we use the merge block that we included up here. See, there's two. One's already in position so that when it falls down one block, it's lined up with these guys. We re-engage those merge blocks. Then everything is connected. We can weld everything. Bob's your uncle. It's done. As soon as it's done welding, it's done. It's ready to go for the next drop. So it's basically a cycle of that whole thing. Drop it, hold it, grind it, re-merge it, weld it. That's it. Begin again. Now, some of the difficulties that we've had is finding that balance between being able to grind and weld. You can't grind something if it's on the same grid as the blocks holding the grinder. So you have to make sure that it's detached, and the only way to make sure it's detached is basically hold it in place so that when you grind things off that are holding it in place without defeat, that it doesn't fall. So we had to get that sorted out, and we had a hell of a time getting it so that it would actually stop moving when we needed it to. But using the blast door blocks allowed us to absorb a lot of the impact without basically destroying things as it was falling through. So that was a big help. Getting the feet lined up properly so that they were in a good position to get good traction, get a good purchase, and hold on to things, that was a big help. And then once we got how we were going to manage the merge blocks, so once we're done grinding, then we can re-engage the merge blocks. Now everything is on the same grid. The welders will line up properly. We can weld the rest of the bits onto the moving frame to replace the ones that we ground off. Now it's ready to cycle again. Proof of concept. Yeah, if you're confused, if you're spinning your head in place on your shoulders, me too. Exactly, that's what I've been doing for the last 5 days. That having been said, that's pretty much the most complicated part of this entire system. Once we've got this beat, like completely streamlined and double checked to make sure everything's doing what it's supposed to be doing every single time, then the whole rest of the assembly is going to seem profoundly simple in comparison. You can see we've got the thrusters down there still going. This is the reworked top of the frame that we've been using. This is the blueprint template that we've been using to put in the projector up there to make everything work. One of the examples that I can give you of things I want to change is that we're going to have this whole central column, instead of conveyor tubes, it's all going to be conveyors, because having it as conveyor tubes, it's kind of problematic with the way the grinders sometimes work or don't work, depending on how you look at it. It'll be a lot easier, a little more expensive, but a lot easier if we have it all made out of conveyors, so that these two orange block columns on either side are actually attached to the conveyors. Right now, they're not attached to the tubes in the middle. There's a little bit of a gap. They're not attached. It's definitely something that we're going to take care of. And then it's just this stuff down here, which is going to be so easy in comparison. I have an idea for managing the throttle on the gondola so that it doesn't go too fast. If it goes too fast, it tends to break things. We're going to take a look at that in more detail when we've actually got everything assembled and you can see it working, as opposed to trying to describe the concept now. We haven't done anything with the Dauntless. We haven't stripped the Dauntless for parts yet either, which is kind of impressive when you think about it. Everything that's been going on over here, we're going to take a look at this now. We haven't started cannibalizing the Dauntless. Not a ton going on here, but we didn't really have a ton left to do, realistically speaking, in terms of the functionality of the ship. I wanted to get my assemblers in place. We've got 10 assemblers on here now. We've got a row of 5, and each assembler has 2 productivity modules attached to it. And we've got another row of 5 here, and then we've got them all connected by conveyors and conveyor tubes to the storage containers below decks. Really simple, straightforward. This is going to be more assembling capacity than I've had on any shipper station since I started playing the game. And one of the things that I've learned is that just like processing ores, assembling some things takes much longer than others on a unit per unit basis. And in other cases, you just need a lot of something in an awful hurry, thinking in terms of things like steel plates, construction components, interior plates, stuff that you use a lot of. You don't want to be waiting on one machine to just kind of sit there and churn it out on its own. If you can repurpose, say, 4 or 5 machines to all be working on that same kind of thing, you get it 4 or 5 times faster. So that's kind of the logic behind having so many. We've also added in our second deck of hydrogen tanks. We're going to have a lot of hydrogen tanks. I ran out of large steel tubes. I have them in storage in the Dauntless, but I'm not going to be carrying them over 80 tubes at a time to finish welding all these guys up. We're going to load it up in the termite. We're going to get all these guys welded up. Then it's going to be kind of time to start working on a little bit of cosmetic detailing on the chassis. The reason why I get to this stage where the functional stuff is pretty much all in as far as I can recall, and then take a little bit of time to do things that are pretty low impact mentally speaking, is because that's the time when I'm going to think of the stuff that I forgot. And if I rush to close it all in and call it done, it's going to be a whole lot more complicated to get it taken care of than if I do something productive, but not necessarily in a hurry, and then I can account for things that change along the way. Like, for example, just in the process of describing this, I can think I don't have a med bay in here yet, so I have to put in a med bay. I have to plummet for oxygen and hydrogen, and I would like to have it near where the bridge is going to be, so I have to decide where the bridge is going to be. So all these little things that we can kind of relax and enjoy for a couple of episodes is what we're going to be doing. While we get everything fine-tuned over here, we'll get the gantry system transferred over here. We'll get track ship attached to it. We'll get the gondola attached to that. We'll get the drills attached to the gondola. And then we'll move the whole thing to ore deposit. And we'll just pretend like we're sweeping. We'll just kind of move back and forth and do the testing now before we fly off to faraway places. We may find some ice along the way, and in the process we can convert that into hydrogen for the tanks for the fuel that's going to get us off this rock again. So we made a lot of progress, and we've still got a lot of progress yet to make. I'm quite pleased to have the lion's share of that finally done, spoken for, proof of concept, in your face. We got it. So the next episode, we're going to look at a little bit of progress on this. We're going to look at a little progress on that. And we'll probably have a few other things to look at as well. So if you want to be notified when I add that video, as always, you can subscribe to my channel or follow me on social media. Links for social media are in the information box below the video. Feel free to leave your comments and feedback. Thanks for watching, guys, and take care.